This is a quick review of the models and slides of the endocrine and digestive system. Let's begin first with the models of the endocrine system. So here we're looking at the thymus and the thyroid gland, and whenever you're doing any gland, you must know where it's present, what its functions are, what hormones are secreted, what the functions of those hormones are. So let's look at the next one, which is again a picture of the larynx, and the thyroid gland is shown here again. And so you can see it is lying in the front of the trachea and goes up to the thyroid cartilage. The next image is the larynx from the posterior aspect, where you see the gland again, the thyroid gland, and sitting on the posterior aspect of the thyroid gland is the parathyroid. There are 4 of them, you only see 2 over here. The next model shows a more magnified view, so you can see these tiny glands sitting on the posterior aspect of the thyroid gland itself, and these are the parathyroid glands. The next is the suprarenal, or also known as the adrenal gland. It's called suprarenal because it is sitting on top of the kidney, on the superior aspect of the kidney. It has 2 zones, the cortex and the medulla, each producing a variety of hormones which you must know about. We then move on to the digestive system, and this model is a histological model of the small intestine, showing you all the layers. So you have the mucosa, the submucosa, the muscularis externa, and the serosa or adventitia will be up here. It's not shown. In the mucosa, in the small intestine, notice the villus. Then the core of the villus, which is the lamina propria, has the lacteal, which is in green, and then the blood vessels, and that's how nutrients are absorbed. Then in the submucosa, you can see the Peyer's patch up here, which is a lymphatic follicle. And then what is not labeled, this area here, is actually showing you a gland, probably the Brunner's glands. What I would also like you to notice is this part here. This is a crypt, this area where you can see the epithelium is invaginated, and that's in the mucosa. Then in the submucosa, you also see the Meissner's plexus, and in the muscularis externa, you see the myenteric plexus between the 2 layers of muscle. You must know the functions of this plexus and which branch of the autonomic nervous system controls these plexuses. Then here we are looking at a lot of structures. We see the liver, the gallbladder, the cystic duct, the hepatic duct, and where the common hepatic and cystic meet, you have the bile duct, and then the bile duct joins the pancreatic duct, and the 2 together form a common opening which is dilated, and that part is known as the ampulla of Vater, and that area is guarded by the sphincter of Oddi, and that opens into the second part of the duodenum, and the opening is called the major duodenal papilla. And then you can look at all of the other structures also seen. This is the area where the hepatic artery, portal vein, and bile duct are present. So histologically, this is where the portal triad would be. This one shows you a gross, large picture of the liver, and you can see the lobes, and you can see the area where the falciform ligament will be present. And when you look at a model like this, you should know the functions of the liver, very important, the different lobes and any other related structures. This is a histological model of the liver, so you can see these lobules which are hexagonal. The center of the lobule has the central vein, so you can see this is the central vein. At the corners you have the portal triads, and one part has been enlarged, so this is the area where the central vein would be. These are the sinusoids in between the hepatocytes, and at this corner up here you can see the portal triads, which has the bile ductule, hepatic artery, portal vein. So a very nice model over here. And this is the stomach, so notice the orifices, the curvatures, the folds which are temporary, and some of the areas. This is the fundus, this part is the body, this area is the antrum, and then this here is the pyloric orifice. Here we have some ducts and the pancreas and duodenum and gallbladder. So again, you can see the bile duct, the pancreatic duct, the opening, the major duodenal papilla, and that area is guarded by the sphincter of Oddi. This one shows you the liver and associated organs. So you can see the blood vessels, the aorta. Then you look at the stomach, and you can actually see the muscle layers, the 3 muscle layers of the stomach, the nerves, the vagus, which supplies the stomach, and some of the blood vessels. Here again, you see the ducts along with some major blood vessels. And so you can see the aorta and inferior vena cava, and lying anterior to the inferior vena cava is the portal vein with the hepatic artery and bile duct. And then this, from the celiac axis, it gives off the hepatic artery. Here is the splenic artery which is going, this area here is the celiac axis. This is the pancreatic duct, and here you can see the dilatation where the bile duct and the pancreatic duct meet. So this area is where the ampulla vator is, and you can see it opens into the duodenum. Also notice the superior mesenteric vessels in relation to the pancreas. This part is the head of the pancreas, the body of the pancreas, the tail which is close to the spleen. This is showing you the parts of the large intestine. You must know each of these individual parts, so you can't just call it colon. You have to say ascending colon, or this area is called the cecum. This is the transverse colon. This is the descending colon. So you must know the different parts. This is showing you the abdominal cavity with all the organs in place, so a rather easy model to identify structures. And this model, the small intestine has been removed, so you can see the mesentery, and a part of the cecal wall has been removed, so you can see the opening of the ileocecal valve, the cecum. This is the opening of the appendix, and then you can also see parts of the colon. Now here we are looking at the histological slide, so we'll begin with the endocrine system. This is the pancreas. It is both exocrine and endocrine. So the exocrine part are all these acini, so these round structures which look like little smudges, very taking up the stain well. So these are the serous acini, and then you see these isolated groups of cells. So these are the islets, so very, very typical. So these are the islets of Langerhans. So you should be able to identify this from the parotid gland, where you do not see these islets. This next slide is that of the suprarenal gland. So you can see the capsule up here. You notice the capsule, and then the first layer, which consists of rounded cells which sort of take up a rounded form, is the zona glomerulosa. So it's about, let's say, a third or a quarter, and then 2/4 is formed by zona fasciculata. This is as bundles, and then you have zona reticularis, and then down here, furthest away from the capsule, is the medulla. Obviously, you have to know what hormones each zone produces and the functions of those hormones. This one is the thyroid, very easy to identify. You see the colloid. Each of these is a follicle, and the center of the follicle, you see the colloid. The epithelium is cuboidal, but it's so flattened here to almost become squamous because it's so filled with colloid. And the digestive slides, here we are looking at the slide of the stomach fundus, where you see these pink, large pink cells. These are the parietal cells, and then the bluish or purplish stained cells are the chief cells. You must know what each of these cells produces and what is the action of those substances produced by these cells. Then here we have the submandibular salivary gland, which is a mixed gland. So you see these darkly staining serous acini, and then these lightly staining mucous acini, which look almost like fat cells or fluff balls. And a duct has a very large lumen, so you can see these ducts up here. Very, very nice slide. And compare this to this one, which is the parotid gland, where you see ducts, but you only see serous acini. You don't see anything looking like light cotton fluff balls. So this is purely serous, whereas the previous one was a mixed. Then this is the esophagus, and you can see the epithelium, stratified squamous, non-keratinized. This area is the lamina propria. This is the muscularis mucosa. And notice these glands. These are mucus glands. So again, compare this to the submandibular mucus. Very, very similar. So you can see that. And here you see a bit of the muscularis externa. And lastly, here is the small intestine. And the way you can identify it, notice these finger-like processes. These are villi. You have some cut sections up here. And notice these big lymphatic follicles, which are Peyer's patches. Had this been the duodenum, you may have seen Brunner's glands. We don't see them up here in this particular slide. It's very important to keep in mind that when you look at these models and slides, you compare them to the PowerPoints and the histology videos available in the lab. As you look at each structure, make sure you keep some of these points in mind wherever applicable, such as where is that structure present, how is it formed, where does it open, what are the parts of the structure, any sphincters related to it, what do its cells secrete, what is the action of the substances secreted by those cells, and so on. Doing all of this along with each model and slide will surely spell success in the lab test.